one day I'll go into space. The trouble is that space travel was run by government, the Russian government and the American government. And they never really thought that you or me, or I suspect most people in this audience would love to go to space. And so, in 1990, I thought, let's register a name, which was Virgin Galactic Airways. It sounded good. And then I set off on a voyage to see if I could find an engineer or technician somewhere out in the world who could build a spaceship that could guarantee return tickets. And fortunately found the genius Berkeley Cup. And we won the X Prize, which was the $10 million prize for the first commercial spaceship to go 3 times into space. And then set about building the much bigger spaceship, which can take 8 people, and a spaceport in New Mexico, which we opened last week. I had my 2 children, myself, out sailing down. It's a beautiful spaceport right out in the middle of the desert. The mothership is now finished, the spaceship is finished, we're finishing the rocket tests, and I think, the dream will become a reality by about Christmas of next year. I think the exciting thing for people in this room and for their children is that, when people crossed the Atlantic back in, the 1920s, it cost about the same price as we're offering to take people into space there, about $200,000. Obviously, over time, the prices came down and down and down. And I think that, by the time the audience's children have grown up or in their teens, it's possible that they'll be able to think, do I want to go on holiday or do I want to go to space? And so we could actually find that we can create, maybe give hundreds of thousands of people a chance to become astronauts one day, instead of, there's only 450 people in the history of space who've become astronauts today.
So Richard, the other one that you've done recently that I was fascinated in is the submarine, where you're going to actually, it's one thing going into outer space, or inner space in this case, which is magnificent, but also to now plumb the depths of our oceans that have never been seen before. There's so much about our own planet that we don't know anything of. What inspired you to do that? Was that just an innate curiosity again to do things because it's a good idea? Dr. Yes strikes again?
Well, I mentioned that 460 people have been in space. There's only 2 people who've actually been below 18,000 feet under our sea. And yet the sea goes down to 37,000 feet. So, there are something like 80% of species on Earth that are undiscovered. And you can actually go down 10,000 foot further down than Everest is high. So, an unbelievable challenge. So we set about, trying to see whether we could build a submarine that could withstand 1,600 times the pressure of an aeroplane. So, it would be possible to do with just solid metal, but you wouldn't be able to see out of it. So what we're trying to do is use quartz, which is effectively a kind of glass which gets stronger as the pressure builds up, so we're told. I was in a mini version of this submarine 5 days ago off Mexico, and we were also trying to see whether we could find a great white shark, and we found a great white shark, and I've got footage of just going along with this great white shark a few hundred foot under the sea. And the great white shark was literally bigger than the submarine, just about 3 feet away. But it was magnificent, and it's beginning to test the submarines. And again, I suspect that there's an awful lot of people in this room who, if we could find a safe way of getting them to come and explore the oceans, would love to do it. And hopefully one day we'll be able to offer that.
You're cracking the code in so many different ways: air travel, submarine travel. But the code I think that most of us are here for is the fact that you crack the code on how to satisfy the customer, to put the customer first. And that is the trademark of Virgin. There's no doubt about that. Any of us who have flown, been, involved in mega stores, any of those things along the way, have always felt they'd had their one experience, to be perfectly honest, and have got good service. Is that the trick? Is that the Richard Branson bit of magic?
In a nutshell, yes. But how do you put the customer first? You put the customer first by putting the people who work with you first. So if you put your people first, and then the customer second, and then the shareholder third, effectively your customers become equal first, because if your people are happy, and if they're really proud of the company, if they're proud of the tools you give them to do the job, if you're working for an airline and every little detail is right, your uniform feels good, if you're listened to, and which is very, very important if you're working for a company. If you've got an idea and somebody listens to you, and actually, hopefully, if you've got a good idea, actually, listen to you and put your idea in the